All right. So I was talking with one of my boys last week about just some concepts and things about dopamine, and it made me come to the realization that it's such a big problem in these days, like quick dopamine, that is, like the cheap shit, like scrolling reels, jerking off, junk food, like gambling, like all this constant just overstimulation. It's training your brain to expect an instant reward, and over time, like normal things, normal efforts, you say, like in your normal life, they start to become boring and painful tasks to do. Like, just because you've trained your brain to expect a high level of stimulus from most of the activities that you're doing, and it's going to drop your motivation. And especially, it's just because your brain is just comparing everything that you do to the highest level of stimulant that you give it regularly. And especially because that stimulus is extremely available. It's in the palm of your hand most of the time, your fucking phone, or in your pocket. Like, you can just whip it out, instant, cheap dopamine, straight to the dome. So that's very dangerous. Like, I'm sure like, you can easily watch a YouTube video for 2 hours, but can't focus for 20 minutes. It's nothing with your personality. It's just how you trained your brain to literally function and just expect these quick hits. It's fixable for sure. You just need to retrain your brain in the opposite way you've been doing it, if that's the situation that you're in. Like, when you live on these quick hits, like real life, it honestly just feels dull. And I've been there. I've been in a dopamine hole before. And, once you get into the cycle of just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and then tomorrow, if I just scroll today, tomorrow is going to be like, it's going to need even more scrolling to get the same feeling. And then you just go down this shit spiral and you fall into this absolute dopamine hole. So obviously you don't want that. Dopamine shouldn't be, or it wasn't intended to be, like a pleasure chemical in your body. It was meant for, like, hunting. Like, imagine like a ancient tribe, bro. They're going to hunt for their dinner. They're about to go fucking slice up a turkey, like chase that shit down and roast that motherfucker. But that's what that shit was made for, rather than like a pleasurable experience. Cheap dopamine, that is. But we want to focus on the hard-earned dopamine. That consists of things like going to the gym, going outside with no phone, taking a walk, meditating, praying, reading a book, like things like that, working on your business. Like, that's all hard-earned dopamine. And that looks like this. The quick hits, cheap dopamine, looks like this. You go below the baseline. This one, the hard-earned dopamine, you go like this, and when you drop, it's a steady drop, and you don't drop below your baseline. With the quick hits, quick up, you get higher on the dopamine, but you drop extremely low, way below your baseline. That's when you feel like shit, and that's when the cycle continues. You start to scroll again once you're at the bottom. So, yeah. Your motivation basically is being outbid most of the time by the cheap dopamine. That's why it's so easy to want to do the cheap dopamine activities, because you've shown your brain that it's a very easy and accessible option to just pick up your phone and start scrolling, or go jerk off, or eat junk food, anything like that. Like, you've shown your brain like that's an easy way to get dopamine, and your brain is like, its function is to keep you comfortable. So obviously it's going to resort to that if it knows that. So once you get in that hole, Obviously you're going to have like a lower boredom tolerance, more cravings. You're going to be probably more impulsive, and you'll just have less drive overall. And I want to touch back on the boredom part. The boredom is actually key. You need to be bored. If you're not bored, you're never going to have time to sit alone with your own thoughts. And it's just going to be emotions, thoughts, and ideas that you see from scrolling, which aren't even yours. So you need to be able to be bored. So to kind of take a step in the right direction, start adding friction. Start adding friction to your bad habits. So, for example, like I have my phone on grayscale mode, so I don't want to use it. I don't want to go and scroll. I do, but not as bad as if I had colors on my shit. So, things like that, and you need to replace your old habits. Probably, it's not about doing a whole dopamine detox, because if you just go from a shit ton of dopamine to zero, you're gonna feel like shit for a while, and then you're just telling yourself it's a detox, so that means you're gonna relapse. You need to just make them habits and slowly cut them out one by one. So, if you want to start getting on track this week, one day at a time, one habit at a time. So, day one, you cut jerking off, replace it with going to the gym. Day two, you replace junk food with a cold shower, something like that. And you just keep going down the line and creating those good habits. So, and one of the first things you should remove is just scrolling, because that's one of the worst. Because you're feeling all these emotions from these other people, and you're seeing their ideas when you're scrolling, and it's just not the real world. So that can become extremely dangerous. So, yeah. Let me talk about adding friction again. Literally, delete the apps on your phone. Put the phone in another room when you're sleeping. Grayscale mode, that's a fucking good one. Blockers for porn sites. Don't keep junk food at home. Out of sight, out of mind. You feel me? Same with if you want to quit drinking or smoking weed, out of sight, out of mind. No phone in your fucking bed either. It's easy, but it's not easy. It's a simple process, but it's hard work. But if you can make discipline easy if your environment is good. Discipline becomes extremely difficult when your environment is filled with things that are just quick hit, easy, cheap dopamine activities. Scrolling, jerking off, junk food, I've said it all already. So yeah, you need to just cut it out one by one and be bored. Be fucking bored. That is such a cheat code and a powerful thing, to have the skill to be bored. If you're able to be bored, you're just there with your own thoughts, man. I can't explain it better. I wish I was better with my words, but I'm working on it. All right? I'm working on it. When I'm bored, So, you don't have to make it an all or nothing thing, just right away. Because, like I said, just doing a straight up detox from 100 to 0% of fucking dopamine, if you're telling yourself it's a detox, obviously you're just gonna relapse. So, at first, just you can give yourself a budget. So, in between the hours of 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. every day, do your quick hits, man. But only in between that time frame. You have to stick to that and be honest with yourself. All right? To build that habit and that discipline. So, and obviously, if you're not productive that day, you probably shouldn't engage in those quick hits at all, even in your time frame. You should have to earn it, because then you'll want to do those hard things because your brain correlates that and associates it with high dopamine reward. So keep it intentional, not just random. You're not going to become a fucking monk overnight that's sitting crisscross on a tree in Asia fucking meditating for 12 hours a day. But slowly you'll start to feel your motivation come back, and you'll stop feeling like everyday tasks are just unbearable. So that's kind of what I got today. That's pretty much all. The goal isn't to just never enjoy life by just having no dopamine. Have your dopamine, but make sure it's not cheap dopamine. Cold showers, like hitting the gym, working on your business, reading a book, journaling, meditating, praying, all that. All right? That is the dopamine source that you want to live your life on. So don't just never enjoy life. All right? You got to stop needing, or the goal is to stop needing just a quick hit stimulus just to exist in your everyday life. So pick one thing from this video and implement it today or tomorrow. Today if you can, but if it's late, hit it up tomorrow. But don't fucking forget. Stay true to yourself and be honest. So thank you. Peace.